Welcome to VLP's Tutor Training module on math. Please keep a pen or pencil and some paper handy for jotting down your thoughts and ideas, and always remember that you can pause the video if you need more time to think or write. What can you expect to tutor if you have a learner who needs math help? Well, we find that most of our learners need a solid review and often basic instruction in whole numbers, fractions, decimals, and percents. This means the concept of each as well as how to use them. It's always good to start with a review of the basics. Sometimes the gaps they have in their knowledge are surprising. It never hurts to go over multiplication and division, the number line, and understanding how numbers compare to each other, as well as place value, rounding, and estimating. Most will have seen these before. All they need is a good review in order to remember it. Each adult high school completion program has its own math requirements, and requirements change periodically, but all of them get into at least basic algebra and geometry. And those word problems. The actual application of the math skills is often one of the hardest things about math for our learners. It's not only the language of math, it's also sometimes a reading comprehension issue that confuses them. You'll always know exactly what your learner needs before you meet with him. Remember, your VLP specialist will let you know. So many people don't even realize they use math all the time. So when we use a situation to illustrate a math idea that relates to our learner's experience, they find it more interesting and are more likely to remember it and even to apply it in their lives. So much of what we do in life has a math component. Think about it. Do you shop for groceries? What do you buy by the pound? How do you know how much of something to buy? The cost of the green beans increases as the quantity you buy increases. What about mileage on the odometer and buying gas? Math, it's all around us and our learners, and it is real.
Here's an ordinary oatmeal box from my kitchen. It's a wealth of math information. It has weight information in 3 different forms: straight ounces, pounds and ounces, and grams. A learner can imagine how heavy these things are in relation to each other. When he or she gets to proportions, you can talk about how those things relate and set them into a proportion. The shape itself is a cylinder, and we also have a circle with a diameter and circumference. We can measure those things with a tape measure, across, around, height. When the student gets to formulas, we can calculate the circumference from the diameter. We can calculate the area. We can calculate the volume of oatmeal that this would hold. Other things on this box include a recipe inside the lid. Recipes are wonderful for our learners who have never used them. This is a new skill set for them. They can learn to measure the amounts that are required, understand the fractions and how they relate. They can have or double or triple the recipe to use fractions in word problems. Another thing this box includes is nutritional chart information. This is also vital to our learners, both for health reasons and for the ability to read a chart. Information is given in grams and given in percents. Serving size, all kinds of information are given. The learner can make up problems as well as answer them. There's also a chart of directions. The directions include both fractions and reading a chart. There are many uses for the oatmeal box. Another thing I find in my house is an old deck of cards. The first thing that leaps to mind with cards is probability. What is the probability of drawing a 9 or a diamond or specifically the ace of spades? But another thing would be fractions. We can put out some cards and ask what fraction of this set is fives or twos or spades. A third and very interesting way to introduce signed numbers is to use the cards as red and black. Nobody wants to be in the red. Red is negative. Black cards are positive. And we can select some subset of the face cards to be 0. Then learner and tutor can play game-like situations where each one draws a card to decide who has the larger number. A larger set of cards can be arranged in order to simulate a number line. And when the learner gets comfortable with those things, you can add by everybody draws 2 cards or even more than 2 to see who has the higher total score.
This is an assignment for you to get you thinking about making math real for your learner. Look around you, no matter where you are right now. What do you see that you could use to teach a math concept or skill? It can be a skill like addition or subtraction, or a concept like fractions or decimals, or percentages or averages, or algebra or geometry. You pick. We're going to pause for 30 seconds here, but go ahead and pause the video yourself if you need more time. Whatever you've selected, set it aside and be sure to bring it with you to your VLP in-person orientation. If what you've chosen is impossible to bring in, then bring in a picture on paper, on your phone, on your camera, or any other device. At the orientation, we're going to be working with what you and your colleagues bring in. It will be interesting to see what everybody brings in, don't you think? It can be difficult for any of us to remember something that someone tells us. But when we talk, we are more interested, more invested, more active. So let's see how this works in tutoring math.
Now, let's work on some math problems. Last week, you were doing problems on page 24, and those problems dealt with adding numbers with decimals. Did you get time to do some more of those types of problems?
Yeah, I did some of them, and I checked them, and I got them all right.
Glad to hear that. If I'd like you to pick one and then explain to me how you solved it.
Anyone?
Oh, sure. You choose which problem.
Okay. Let's see.
What if I didn't know how to do this problem? Would you be able to tell me and explain to me step by step?
Well, yeah, you need to write it this way.
What way is that?
With the decimal points lined up.
Yes, with the decimal points lined up. And the 7, though, the 7 doesn't have a decimal point. How did you know where to line it up?
Well, you need to put it at the end.
Now the learner is working on being able to read a math problem given in words, what we used to call story problems or word problems, and figure out what to do to solve it.
Okay, now that you read the problem to me, tell me what the situation is.
I don't get it.
Well, what does the person want to do?
Buy a camera.
Will he have to pay full price for the camera?
No.
Okay, no, he won't. What do you see here in the problem that says he won't have to pay full price for the camera?
Well, it says 1/3 off.
Yes, it says 1/3 off. Okay, have you ever seen a sign in a store like that?
Yes.
Okay, then what I want you to do is to write those words now. 1/3 off.
1/3 off.
Great, 1/3 off. What do you think that means?
When the learner admitted she didn't get it, the tutor started to break the problem into smaller chunks until she could begin to figure it out. Did you notice how the tutor asked questions?
So what happened in those two situations? Think about how the tutor got the learner talking. Remember the questions the tutor asked and how the learner was able to separate his thoughts? This is a great way to help our learners. When they are having trouble, break the learning into smaller chunks that they can understand. To help you in your tutoring, VLP will lend you a workbook or even two. Most of them are very easy to follow, and they concentrate on helping the learner understand the concept, that's comprehension, as well as some practice to help them remember it, that's retention, and then exercises to allow the learner to see how the concept is used, that's application. Let's see what this might look like. The next 3 slides are all part of one page from a typical VLP math workbook. Suppose the next page you and your learner get to is about estimation. You can read the explanation together and then see what the learner already knows about this. Ask the learner to give you a couple of examples of when he or she uses estimation in everyday life. You might have to give a couple of clues or prompts to get this going. Remember, get that conversation going. Just pause the video if you need more time to read this. Let's go on to the next part of the page. Then there will be a few examples that you can work through together, talking about each one. Take a look and think about how you might talk through each one with the learner. Just pause the video if you need more time. Okay, now on to the next part. And here's the most important part. Give the learner some time to do some exercises independently and to explain the concept back to you. Ask the learner how he'll use this, how he'll take it to his life. Please pause the video if you'd like more time to think. So now you see how the VLP workbooks can help you with your tutoring. Here are some of the questions our tutors ask the most. Can the learner use a calculator? Well, it depends. Our learners really do need to know how to solve math problems with and without a calculator. Knowing how to use the calculator is a critical skill for life and work. Your VLP specialist will let you know what calculator use is required or appropriate for your learner. However, it is a great idea to have your learner use the calculator to check the work. That gives them immediate feedback and independence. What's on the GED test? You may or may not have a learner who is preparing for the GED test. Rest assured that your VLP specialist will lend you study materials that are appropriate for what your learner needs and at the level that your learner can do. If it's the GED test, then your VLP specialist will be sure to let you know the kinds of items that are on that test. What if I'm not comfortable tutoring math? Don't worry, VLP won't ask you to tutor anything that you aren't comfortable with. Remember, you'll know what the learner needs before you even accept the tutoring assignment, and you can say yes or no. And finally, please give this some thought. So many of our learners are like this. No wonder they aren't doing well in math. We'll talk about this a bit at the in-person orientation. You might want to write down your thoughts to bring with you. We'll pause here for 30 seconds. Congratulations, you've completed the math module. Please contact us if you have any questions or concerns. Your next step is the tutoring reading module. Keep your paper and pen handy for jotting down your thoughts.